Vodafone presents the pre-match.
Welcome to pre-match number 1. It is our first series of the day, another best of 2 or series of 2. Whatever you want to call it, it's our first series of the day. It's a very important one for both teams. Forward Gaming going up against Mineski, both with a shot at staying alive here at ESL One Katowice. Now, before we get the thoughts of Nahaz and Capitalist, let's get to the thoughts of a main man on forward side, a Coach Aoi. He's with Shiva.
All right, thanks, Paul. AY, it has been a rough road last couple of days. You have an elimination match coming up, basically an elimination match, I guess, with Mineski. How's the mood in the team?
I think it's fine. I think the tournament, like, we thought we'd do better coming in, but we thought that about all our tournaments, so now we're used to it. No, it's just like we're just gonna play our best and hope that we win, right?
I mean, that's hopefully how you normally do things as well.
That's how it works, I think.
I think so too. So what do you do to make sure that you improve from time and time in every event again?
I think on this team we've actually done a lot of work to improve on stuff. The thing about like Dota, I think for us is like when we learn something new, we focus on a lot, so we actually tend to get worse at other aspects of our game. And so like, but as soon as you learned it, then like as soon as you integrate it and bring your level of play back to normal, then you add something new on top of that you've learned. So yeah, that's how we try to improve.
I mean, it sounds like a good, like you have something in mind that you want to do and it's working out. Might not be working out for this event, but perhaps for the future it will.
Honestly, like we're not doing that well at this event. But we're still hopeful, you know. We haven't lost yet.
No, I know you know. No. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. So you're here as a coach, obviously, with your team. How do you help SVG with the draft, with the game, and especially with so many games going on at the same time as well for you guys?
I don't know what I do. No, like, I mean, we talk, right? We just talk, and you see, you try to identify what you want to do in the game. Like what heroes are going to help you do that, and then for draft, like you look at what heroes the enemy wants, and like what you think they want to do, and you try to prevent that. Like, it sounds really basic, but it's harder because they're also trying to do the same thing, and they're really good at it.
And then when do you stop next leveling your opponent? Because it's all mind games, and I know on the panel they sometimes but if they think that, then the enemy must think this, so they're going to try to preemptively counter that. But they also are, at what time do you stop that?
I think you do want to try to get a draft advantage. Yeah. But like, in terms of advantages in a game of Dota, like, you want to edge out advantage, but I don't think you should be trying to play for some like 90-10 ratio, right? Because then you can like mess up and you can mind game yourself. Yeah. Like, so I think like you try to get an advantage where it doesn't hinder your own like game plan or like your ability to do what you want while countering as much as our opponents. I don't know if that is too much general answer, but
no. So you go into the game, you have already a game plan set, and then you kind of fill it in from there and hope you can try to counter your opponent.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's less of like a hard game plan and more of like a general idea of how you want your game flow to work, and then like you set an idea and you want to play towards that, right? And yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. Yeah.
All right. So, and coming into this specific match for Mineski, do you have anything specific in mind? Is there anything that you changed from yesterday that we can know about?
No.
Keep it close to your chest.
Against Mineski, you want to kill Pi a lot.
Fair enough. Does that give any extra level of depth for you facing Pi?
No, I like Pi, so I want him to die a lot. So I told my players to kill him a lot.
Sounds like a solid strategy to me.
It usually works.
Well, I wish you good luck in the games today. I hope to talk to you again after, and thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Shiva. Yeah, one of the smartest guys in Dota I know, but also one of the funniest as well. He's got a very dry sense of humour, as Kurt. It's interesting then what he says. He's not going to give much away in terms of Mineski. Yeah, kill Pylai Die. I think there's a good strategy.
Do you really need to try and kill Pylai Die? Is it like just
happens
as the game goes on, he's naturally
he gives up kills anyway, naturally, after the 20-minute mark. Sure. He just dies anyway, so it's fine. I mean, it was interesting what he said, Alan, in terms of how they approach it, because I feel like most teams have that. Most teams have this kind of like general idea of how we want to play. This is the style we want to play around. Not necessarily the heroes, but we've got like, if we want to play this kind of style, then we've got 5 heroes that we can play. As long as the other team doesn't ban them all, which they can't ban them all in the first place, we're okay. And then we'll go from there.
I really liked what he had to say about draft advantages, and I think it dovetails nicely with several of the discussions that we've had on panel about mind games. About, I think in Dota, if you try to be too clever, if you try to counter all their heroes and trick them into picking something, it's too easy to end up with 5 heroes at the end that your 5 players just don't really want to be in a game with. I think you have to have that team identity that we talked about, and you have to sort of play for these moderate draft advantages within the context of that identity.
Something as important is, like, if you're VP, we want to be able to win the laning phase. If you're EG, we want to be able to outgreet them, make sure that we have high ground defense and better late game. I think that, like, those kind of identities, you don't try and counter every single hero. I think you just try and fit into your game.
If we're Gambit, we just want to run it.
Yeah.
Anything that allows us to do that.
Pick Razor and run it.
Let's switch focus to their opponents. Mineski, they're not in the best of form. I kind of feel like both these teams have struggled at this event, but they're also struggling in general outside of this event. So it's a big game for both because, you know, this could be a marker point, right? We've talked about, you know, are Forward going to make changes after this event? Are Mineski going to make changes after this event? Move on from here. Match up against a decent team in the next round in the bracket, and then have a deep run, and suddenly you're top 6. That changes things, right?
Well, we talked a little bit earlier on in the Open about Chaos's actual performance being a lot less surprising than their 5-3 would suggest. I think Mineski's performance is actually a little worse than even 2-6 would suggest. They won their 2 opening games against FTD, a team which was just completely disjointed at that time, and then they lost 6 straight. And in a lot of those, they weren't competitive. So I'm a little bit worried about Mineski based on what we've seen over the last few days.
Common thread between both of these teams is that they have both had some, you know, overall strategy. I'll leave that to someone else, but questionable hero picks. There's definitely been some ones. I think there was there was the early pick Nyx Assassin. There was the last pick Silencer. Remember, I hated that one a bunch. For Forward, it was their initial focus on Grimstroke, which I think it was a series versus Secret, where they 1-2'd Grimstroke both times, and then haven't drafted it since, and really nobody else has been drafting, especially with that kind of priority in picks. And then the Mirana.
Yep.
Two different Mirana games, and I don't know if Mirana's really a hero, right?
Even the fact that they've probably got the best Mirana player in the world on their team.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, look, Moon is sick on that hero, but again, we did that panel cap, and we talked about, but one of the problems for Mineski is them essentially having 2 5-position players. And in that particular game, that Silencer game, they looked like it. They were a combined 0-18, right? We need to see Febby in particular, I think, step it up a little bit and be a little bit more of that roaming playmaker that we see from the 4 position on other good teams.
And going back to expectations, I think these are 2 teams that, honestly, I think most analysts, maybe even some of the teams and players, they have very different expectations out of these 2 teams.
Yes.
You know, I was telling Alan, I was like, watching Forward right now, it's just depressing because, you know, I excused everything that happened in Chongqing because they matched up against LGD and Secret in their groups. They 2-1. They lost 2-1 against both of them, and then they lost a best-of-1 to get knocked out of the tournament. Like, in my head, I just checked that. I was like, okay, that's just
that happens sometimes,
right? But this tournament, like, they have had bad performances, and they're losing to teams they honestly shouldn't. And
I mean,
I don't know.
Can I also put something into the mix here? I'm surprised that they're still in contention to make the brackets, honestly. With the way that we looked at them yesterday and the day before, after their matches when they lost, they look just depressed in there. Like,
hey, Paul, remember what AUI said? Oh, we haven't lost yet.
Right. I mean, where there's hope, there's
But yeah, they were
they really did.
I worry about where the
look
emphasis
ruined.
was in that sentence.
Yeah, they look ruined. They look like a team that weren't communicating, a team that weren't interested even in discussing what went wrong in the game. They've pretty much given up 5-10 minutes before they're all running in and dying single-handed. I don't understand how they're still a team right now. And yet, when you talk to Kerr, like that Shiva did, you actually get a sense that they're still alive. They're still fine, and they've got an opportunity.
Yes, there were parts of that interview of like, I didn't think Shiva was being like too negative, and Curtis was just like, hey, we haven't lost yet. I was just like, man, you have a pessimistic outlook. But I did really like the fact that he was saying that what he said about his team, that they over-adjust to try and fix certain errors. Hey, at the end of the day, Dota 2 season is a marathon heading to TI, so, you know, these individual tournaments don't matter so much. So that part of the interview made me very hopeful for Forward in an overall sense.
All right, well, we're going to get into the draft. We've had our 3 bans on each side. Chen is the first pick for Mineski.
This is a major surprise.
Well,
it has been a popular first pick.
For Mineski.
It's been 11 months.
Indeed.
It's been 11 months since they've run Chen and they open with it. And Forward with the much more conventional reply that is also something that they run very regularly in Keeper of the Light.
Forward 1, they got Keeper of the Light. I'm out. You handle the rest of the draft, Alan.
This hero, you know, I thought that the change to Wisp in the fact that you can no longer buy Refresher and just stack and offset the pulses was a major late game nerf to this hero. And it was Fogged. I gave him a lot of credit. I made that point to him and he immediately just said, well, you just buy Hex. I mean, this is a hero that naturally gets a lot of gold as the game goes on.
350 cast range talent at 15. That's
exactly
insane.
No, you can Hex somebody from what range? Yeah, it's
800.
Yeah. And the theory crafting that I heard when I was talking to some higher level NA pros is that they were like, well, can't you just run at 5?
Right.
Like, don't you just like lower the net worth priority? Like, if you don't need, like, if you're not trying to grind into this Refresher, then you're still a great hero. You just aren't going to have as many items.
And I think,
so what?
I think we all just underestimated when we were talking about how cool it was for this hero to get Refresher and stack those pulses. I think we all underestimated how good just one instance of the spell was in the first place, especially with how the map has gotten changed. There, it feels like there's so many more choke points that you're fighting into.
Was there a moment in the FTD game where didn't James go crazy in that game at one point?
Well, he went crazy on Rubik. He stole a CM ult and killed like 4 people from the damn
game,
trees.
Maybe it wasn't him.
Oh, wow.
Cuddle Brew.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, this is a hero. This is a hero that obviously after the recent nerf has taken quite a step back. And one of the big things about this hero is that before you got that BKB Deso at the mid-20s, and it usually coincided with this nice power spike that you got from your level 20 triple stifling dagger talent. With that talent moved back to level 25, it doesn't feel to me like this hero's mid-game power spike is nearly as overwhelming.
Yeah, maybe it's just a laning phase configuration that they feel like PA can deal with the pressure that Coddle puts on the lanes via daggering and stuff. I'm not convinced by it. I kind of like the forward, the Coddle +1, whatever it is, like Coddle, Chaos Knight, sure. Like whatever it's going to be good. The Brewmaster, the interesting thing is there was a recent change with his gets people drunk, you know, he throws booze at them and they drink it and that stuff happens. The change was that sorry, what was it?
Drunken Haze.
Drunken Haze.
Yeah.
Wait, is Drunken Brawler
Drunken Brawler is the crit,
and then Drunken Haze is
the
So
have another.
So when he's trying to get people drunk, they added in the thing where if you get hit by a nuke, I think it's like over 80 damage or something like that, it refreshes.
Yeah.
So you know, you've got a Coddle here. I'm presuming they're going to lane together. I'm not sure how you actually are going to be able to dodge that big Illumina blast that's going to be coming your way. So I thought that was just a small little mechanical thing.
There is a slight oddity about Forward in that they run the brew on SVG a lot.
It's not that much of an oddity when you think
but
back.
Others are running still offlane, right?
Well, it's more of something that was a thing for a while in the meta, the 5-role Brewmaster, because he can trade early on in lane. He can trade so effectively with that crit.
Wasn't that a puppy thing?
It was a puppy thing. It was a Peter thing.
It was everybody.
A lot of teams
and
were doing
I saw it so many
clubs. Puppy started that, right?
Because of a few changes, teams went away from it, and Forward hasn't. They've just stuck with it.
They're still with it. So they may well have 2 supports, is my point, at the start of the game.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I think Coddle plus, as far as the open that Cap was talking about, Coddle plus any flex pick that could potentially lane with him, I think is your S tier opener right now. That's like an opener that I'm never going to think is bad.
Yeah. I do want to talk to you guys about the Jug. It's had an appalling event.
5 and 12. It's the most picked hero.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's Resolution's most played in the last month as well. Something Forward have really gone back to time and time again. They're not going to do it again here, surely.
I don't. Again, I think that these heroes tend to we tend to maybe overread a little bit much event to event in terms of small sample sizes.
Yeah.
I still think Jug is fine.
It's played 17 games and it's got a win rate of 29.4.
Again, I think it's been overpicked, right? Jug to me is a hero that I had this discussion with Kyle at Chongqing.
Still needs to fit, doesn't it?
It's a hero that if you are super confident in your lanes, plays on the enemy side of the map, puts all this pressure, it's awesome. But at the same time, at farm parity, it loses to most of the other big agi carries.
Also, there's certain offlaners that are better against Jug, as well as the supports that went with Jug. Grimstroke and Lich are both been nerfed a little bit, have been falling out of favor, especially Grimstroke. So you don't have the same kind of potent duo, and you're matched up against offlaners that are harder to deal with as a Juggernaut. So I think like that combination just means laning phase is harder for
This is so much better though. I love that we were talking about the Jug and Forward kind of pivoted and said, you know, we're gonna go with this Spectre, this late game insurance. The Brewmaster Coddle combo, both, it guarantees at least some level of stability for your lanes. It guarantees at least some level of team fight to take you through the mid game. And I think the Spectre pick is just this beautiful late game insurance with how many games we've already seen, as many games at this event go 50 minutes plus as we did in the entire CQ Major.
You know, it'd be cool if they actually went the Centaur Spectre, because
I'm down.
Playing Centaur against PA feels pretty good.
I actually think you might leave Centaur for the 5th pick though, because that preserves kind of the flex value of the Brewmaster. If you pick Centaur here, it tells you a lot more.
I haven't seen like hardly any Centaur, and I honestly haven't played it either, just because it just kind of disappeared off the map. I don't know how it feels right now. Obviously, it has to feel worse.
Universe has had a few games on it. It's his 4th most played over the last month.
I do agree with you, though, that, you know, the first thing I thought of when we were talking about the Juggernaut discussion was I just want Redzo to play more of a harder carry for this team. And we're going to see it here.
Yeah, his top 5 right now. Jug, Void, Lifestealer, Morph, and TB.
Who, Rezo?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Last month.
Well, so let's...
Outside of that, the PA and the Lone Druid are also in there, but...
If you're picking your 3, I like Centaur. We should talk about they may be picking their 2, and I still think OD's pretty solid. I actually, a lot of teams I think would hesitate to pick ET here or OD here, feeling like the other team would come back with Pugna. But I actually feel like I feel like the OD Pugna combo is not as simple as people make it out to be. We can talk about it if it comes up. But it is going to be the 3, the Night Stalker. All right.
Awkward thing, Supernova does have priority over everything. You are literally the sun. So darkness and anything, like, that doesn't count. You are the sun, so therefore it's daytime.
So
which hurts Night Stalker.
You're questioning the pick of the Night Stalker.
No. I just thought it was an interesting mechanical thing.
I mean, I think it's just, the thing about Night Stalker right now is that he's just this mobile AoE silence, and Mineski just doesn't, they have nothing that can prevent Night Stalker from just running in.
Yeah.
I mean, they have no stun.
All the Night Stalker games that I've played so far, it's felt best when I have a squishy support that doesn't have long-range disables, where I can just get on top of them. The silence is particularly effective, especially if I'm facing up against a mobile core, where my silence feels very good. PA kind of fits that build, not amazing.
They needed that so badly. They basically, the biggest thing that they needed, and it's hard because they've already picked their 2 supports, is a hero that can just stop Night Stalker from completely running into you. And I think Kunkka he's not only does that, but he has these disables, these zoning tools that are on a relatively short cooldown.
Yeah, my thing was I thought Mineski's draft was honestly garbage with the first 3 because you have a Phoenix and 0 disables. You need significant amount of catch. Kunkka does give you, like, he's probably one of the best.
You need catch, you need zoning, you need disable.
Yeah, there's going to be a team fight around this Supernova. We're going to force you to have it, or you're going to be forced to use a BKB charge.
Well, and the other thing about the Phoenix is that it ramps up so slowly. This is one of the heroes that, the non-core heroes that you have to buy Midas on because level 1 Supernova is so garbage.
It's a very different looking Mineski lineup from what we're used to in the last month or so.
I think Kunkka,
really.
Kunkka salvages it a lot for me, but I'm very much in line with Cap's evaluation of the draft through the first 3 picks. I thought Forward had a huge advantage. I still think Forward has the edge going into the last one here. And you can see, a Forward is, we know what the last pick for Mineski has to be. It has to be this offlane. Whereas I don't think we're going to see Mineski run the Zai style 3-position Kunkka.
Yeah, I think you want more stuns out of your offlane, and I think you also want a hero that pressures Spectre. Like, whenever a Spectre is picked up, every offlaner goes like, oh, I kind of have a free lane for once. Right. That's super cool.
Can they go Enigma here, Mineski?
I'm kind of okay with Enigma. I also like Tidehunter. I think it's an okay Pango game.
I don't like Tide. What is the interaction? I don't like Tide only because the interaction between Night Stalker Silence and Kraken Shell is kind of like Disruptor, right? That's what I worry about. It's continuously
I was more thinking of just the fact that you get in Spectre's face, but you're probably right. Like, playing against Night Stalker.
Wow,
Slayer's really good at pressuring melee cores in lane.
Agreed.
I like that.
Agreed. I think that's super good.
And it makes PA much stronger as a
And
hero.
it's going to always give you vision over like the real Spectre and the Night Stalker. This is all right. I'm down. I think the last 2 picks have salvaged Mineski's draft to the point where I'm not going to call this like a 70-30 or 80-20 draft, which it was looking like to me for the first 3 picks.
Last pick was forward though.
Yeah, they need
See
a
what
mid.
magic they come up with.
They need a UR hero, and that's really where forward have struggled. Like when they were playing well around TI, Rezo and UR felt sort of interchangeable, and they haven't had that. And that's the OD
So,
that I thought Mineski might.
We talked about that in the second phase. They hadn't banned it out. Wasn't the last ban either. And
So
they banned it out.
OD Kunkka.
Yeah, you've got a nice lane setup.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit concerned that OD and Spectre together is just like a bit greedy.
Too greedy?
But I don't think it's honestly too much of a problem for forwards.
Yeah, I still think 60-40 forward, and maybe even a little more than that.
Definitely a rescue of the draft towards the end though. The last 2 picks, right?
Yes.
What are their supports? They have Brewmaster and
Brewmaster Coddle.
Yeah, that was the 2
Coddle.
they opened with.
Yeah,
those are like pretty good space creators for OD. Like sometimes you want like a really good save mechanism, something like the Oracle that just like straight up when they go on the OD, we're able to bail them out. But other times you just want heroes that are on the front line that create space naturally through team fight, have disables, and Brewmaster and Coddle fit both of those.
And they're not only space creators, but they're space creators at all points in the game. There are a lot of lineups that run into trouble when their supports or their offlane can create space at one phase of the game and not others. Brewmaster and Coddle can continue to serve in that role.
All right. It's NA's hope here that Forward make it through to the bracket stage. We've also got one of the casters from NA in the box right now alongside Toby1. We say good morning to Toby and Kyle. Gents,
Hi.
Good game to start things off and a very interesting draft.
Yeah, we're actually looking at the draft hoping that, because obviously to avoid the game 2 being a dead rubber, we want Mineski to win the game.
I think you might.
To win game 1. We're not biased casters at all. Like Kyle, we're never biased, right? There's no ever post
I
about
don't know
us
if
being
Kyle
biased.
can cheer against NA teams though. Is that, or maybe he does cheer against NA? I don't know.
I'm indifferent. I like to think I'm a citizen of the world.
All right.
I just like the Dota.
A Dota citizen. I like it. Gents, take us into game 1.
Thank you, American citizens of the world. You may cross like a Roman. You can go anywhere safely. It's so you can get easier visas to countries like China than I
Yeah,
can.
that is a big benefit. I gotta say the passport's quite nice.
Yeah.
Whole no visas needed for.
Yeah.
Europe.
Hey, I'm running off a British
Tenure to
passport
China.
right now. We're all screwed. Let's look towards Mineski as well as forward. The draft looks absolutely fantastic. So many great stun combinations. Enter the Phoenix Egg. We were sitting there after Mineski picked it up in 3rd, and it never really seemed to come from forward. And OD is the last one. Cap thought at least a little more space can be created by forward. So how do you feel it?
Well, I like what Mineski did with their last 2 picks, because when you see you're up against Night Stalker Spectre, there's no way you're ever going to have the vision advantage. So you pick 2 tanky cores that can respond immediately the moment they find anyone in their area. X onto Night Stalker, he's going to be locked down. Slardar lands his ult on someone, all of a sudden that vision disadvantage isn't as big of a deal, and in addition it makes that PA the hyper carry, the strongest hero in game. At a certain point, PA will carry, for sure, just based on KP's ability to ult people, buy a Vlad's, perhaps AC later on.
It seems almost a little too easy. It's like, okay, what have you got to do? Put Corrosive Haze on a target to allow the physical damage of Phantom Assassin to be even more enabled. And like, she's just got the easiest time in the world then. We'll see a little bit of a rune battle, not around bottom, that's just a 2-2 trade-off. It's the SVG movement on the top, where he's trying to battle against Fabi to find the extra rune. So KP can get the crush, and Mineski will claim 3 of the bounty runes. So SVG's path, actually ends up being him taking a hell of a lot of damage.
Yeah, and the Phoenix pick, you have no real egg hitters on the side of forward. Like, at a point you'll have enough BKBs to deal with it, but I loved the Phoenix into Spectre, because this is the best 5 position to play against a Spectre. It's all about elongating these team fights, live through the Bruce split, the Coddle ult, specifically the Haunt. And Spectre prefers to play against these really squishy 5 positions that prefer to sit in the back lines like Silencer, like Oracle, where you're just immediately on top of them, taking them down. Phoenix, he throws out a W, and perhaps even eggs to save himself, you never actually look at him as a target for this incredibly high reach one position played by Rezo.
You commit everything into a Phoenix, then you got nothing left to control the rest of the team, which can work really well for Mineski. Laning-wise, I want to see the presence of the Keeper of the Light. That was the space creator that Cap was kind of flagging. Like, this guy can do some work as long as MSS can get some harassment in that bottom lane and create space for Universe to get some good farm, especially in this first 5-minute block.
Yeah, and it'll come down to play, as most games always do, but I would 100% favor Mineski's draft, like 80-20, possibly even more, assuming that this game stays even to the 15-20 minute mark. Because you look at the lineup, what the hell does Forward do against triple BKB on the side of Mineski?
I don't have an answer for you, but hey, maybe Forward can answer a little later on in the game.
Like, OD Spectre is just such a weird core combo to me, because neither, like, they both need a lot of time to come online. Neither one pressure objectives, neither one does Roche. In fact, Forward can't do Roche until like 25 minutes plus, whereas Mineski, it's so easy. You just walk in with Slardar, summon a creep, you could potentially look to sneak it as early as 10 or 12.
I'm loving this bottom lane with Pilot Eye going for the Divine Favor as the first point. Like, she doesn't care if he gets hit by the blast from Coddle. Like, MSS has burnt every bit of mana he kind of had in order just to harass out the lane. But all he's done is just push the lane back underneath the tier 1 tower, make for some easy farming for the Phantom Assassin, who gets all of his life back as Chen gets aggressive.
Yep. Love the Snoo Chen. I am very surprised that Mineski were able to pick that up. Because not only do you crush lanes, as we've seen time and time again, but that map mobility, it's so nice to have when you play against a team like Forward that's all about forcing skirmishes, utilizing their pickoff potential like Night Stalker, just roaming the map. Now a Chen just equalizes, and you can look to turn it around so simply.
Yep. And now he's hit level 2. He brings in a Heartbeat, one of the most annoying units to play against, because it's just this non-spam harassment. Like, it's 50 mana, and he starts with a 400 mana pool. TP out on top, that'll be fine.
140 magic damage.
Yeah. And then you want to start like calculating how many hits he gets out of all of this. It's like, how much life has the Universe got? At least it's got stick charges to work with, but that's why the Harpy's chasing Keeper of the Light. Could look towards mid. Yua's already having a bit of a rough time. He tried to go for the rune against Moon and almost died to a torrent that we had before.
Yeah, Moon's Conka is really a treat to watch, and I feel like because Mineski haven't been prominent on the international scene, he's kind of gone under the radar, but like he used to play under the tag Nana with WG Unity, one of the 2 players to really break out from that squad, and I think he's my number 2 in SEA mid, behind Abed, and I feel like he gets no love, even though he's certainly a tier 1 player. Maybe not quite S tier just yet, but he's got potential. And Kunk is one of his best heroes.
I think the Mineski fans will be happy to hear that. Once you see like a lot of the players move over to Fnatic's, like, oh, can Mineski still be one of those big top teams in Southeast Asia? It's kind of a hard question.
There's no Astro along the war. He's got to be a little... this is nice. He's just going to try and ensure he gets top.
He was baiting out at X marks. Torrent back in again. Decent amount of damage, but as you said, just top rune for Moon. Won't be there, so it's down on bottom. And MSS has already taken it. Get away. You are. Oh my god, there's Harpy. Oh, he actually gets it? He actually gets it. What is the range on that?
He got full XP from that as well. Remember that Chen gets 100% of that experience because it was his unit that gets the kill. So he's already level 3 down bottom now.
Man, Moon killed it straight after as well. That's like, hey, thanks for the first blood. Now we're going to kick you.
Actually, I'm not sure if that's how the mechanic works. Because I know if you get the killing blow, you get solo XP. I don't know. Well, I'll check it later. I don't know if it affects units in the same way. And yeah, so you're doing a good job pushing under tower, but like you said, look at the look at the CS on the PA. You're not actually applying pressure, stopping the CS.
In trouble. SVG's trying to get back underneath the tower, but KP is the bash of the deep. He went 2 points up, and he's been in the face of everyone because it's just these melees. It's just never-ending bashes. They can't move quickly because the Fire Spirits both burn and slow. And there's your hit once again. He has a Spectral Dagger into the tree lines. Resolution 17-2 CS up against Asada, who's 27. That's 22-7.
Yeah, then Mineski's playing so clean around that. They're winning every lane, and I don't know. I'm afraid for Forward right now.
I think SVG's dead too.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like, the only advantage is right now, Feppy's not burning spirits, but that's it. He doesn't even need it.
I don't like watching Forward play these sorts of lineups nearly as much as I do when they're able to be aggressive. You know, I feel like Yawar on his DK, on his Death Prophet, That's what I like to see him play, but you're just accepting that your 2 cores are going to be incredibly defensive, and then Universe, who in my book is one of the more conservative offlaners, is now solely responsible for all of your tempo, all of your rotations, instead of what, you know, we remember him best for, like these heroes like Darkseer, like Void, like Tide. This just doesn't seem to fit the strengths of what I see this squad excelling at.
To have him on a Night Stalker now, and he has to do something. We're 6 minutes into the game, so the first minute of nighttime for Night Stalker. Something needs to come from it, and maybe they do find it up on the top rune, as Moon already begins his TP out the Eclipse. You are through it looking for the kill. Even with the double nulls, it wasn't enough damage. Moon will survive, and then aggression up on top lane. Icarus dive under the tower. Febby's not really ready to go just yet. Fire Spirit, so if MSS wants to come further out, KP will be very happy to take the fight.
He did have an arcane rune, though.
They're wrapping around the back. SVG is a level 2 Brewmaster. And with the Bash the Deep over on spec, Febby does dodge the Coddle Blast and into the trees. More supports arriving in the form of Pylite Die, looking to buff up KP and get him into the front lines to get some kind of rebuttal for support kill. And they're probably going to get it over on SVG. Bash the Deep connects, and yeah,
wow, that's
level
175 damage. Holy shit.
And a 1.25, a 1.2 second stun.
The reason, you know, traditionally, you know, we used to see Slardar skip Bash. I would always advocate it, but after the change, and now also with the mega importance placed on the laning phase, you just max that. And you can see why. You actually charge up a Bash, and then you go hit the enemy for like 250 damage and laugh at him. As soon as he hits 6, I don't even know if Resolution can lane up here. At least he can't lane up here against equal numbers. You know, with 2-on-2, he'll start getting wrecked.
He hasn't been able to lane up here anyway. Like, I've been keeping a close eye on the top lane, and KP's always been under the tier 1 tower. He doesn't care about coming in close on Resolution, but yep, bring in PA, bring in the extra damage. Resolution has a Spectral Haunt. He'll jump towards the mid. He's on Moon, and he's going to pull him straight back in again. X mark spot, Torrent and Boat looking for the cleave damage. Resolution will not survive because Febby, he dives himself forward, looking for the kill on Rezo. 15-4, 0 HP as Moon's Torrent will wet the feet. Yawar, he wants to attack, but it's taking so much time. Finally, he'll find that kill. So it's a 1-for-1 trade-off, but this is not what you want to have.
Yeah, I love that play. And there's the Chen, the power of the Chen. You bring your carry top immediately, you land a kill on the enemy's 1 position, and yeah, sure, you know, SVG was getting some farm down bottom, he pushed it into tower, but you have a Slardar taking that the entire time, and now Uni, he's trying to dive, but
does this
I don't
work?
think this is real.
No, you just use Spectral Haunt to escape. You don't have it to be aggressive. And Resolution TP to the bottom lane to go with SVG.
Yeah, but you just can't, you don't want to play into Slardar as Rezo right now. He's just too strong.
When he gets the amplification up, he's always seeing where you're moving. The vision game is perfect for Mineski.
Yeah, they don't have vision down here in Moon. This is a really cool rotation.
Oh, into
a little
the
unexpected.
trees.
They know he's missing, but if you land a stun here, I believe Rezo just gets blown up.
Is it a stun, or do you just stun where the X marks the spot? It means Resolution or SVG has to come a little bit more aggressive, but the creep wave's hitting the tier 1 tower in mid. This may be a warning bell.
And they also saw him. They saw his vision. But it's still a cool rotation. We saw this yesterday from mid 1, or I think day 1 actually, from his Kunkka, where you get to a certain point where you just want to start moving around. And this rotation, just by staying off map now, he's threatening 2 lanes, because they have to also be concerned, since Pylite Die is top, at any moment he could just bring the Kunkka here, and then Universe is the one on the chopping block. They sit Febby mid, so we see with a lot of these support Phoenixes, get him 6 ASAP, and then you can look to start taking team engagements.
Good thing to actually flag Universe. Like, we are the last 20 seconds of the first nighttime phase, and what have we seen from the Night Stalker? Arrives on top lane after the fight happens. You now have 15 seconds before the daytime, and Forward have 4 heroes moving around the northern front. Like, they're looking for an opportunity, and they're not really going to get it. Even for the 10-minute bounty runes, KP's in position on the bottom, so Universe can come in closer. But KP, he's got Crush, he'll amplify him, he'll take the rune, and if he goes in, yeah, there's your Bash at the Deep. And Universe is actually burning Dark Ascension.
That's so risky. I mean, you're gonna now have a 2-minute period where there's no night, and mid, you're actually getting maybe kill the bro?
Defensive imprisonment from Yawar, but KP's moving himself over. He can amplify, they can keep this going. Nope, SVG's got just enough movement speed to run up the hill and away.
That was just so well played, and this is why I like 5 positions that play Chen, okay? Pylite Die, it's so simple, but just by bringing Kunkka to the top lane, showing that they secure those 2 bounty runes. There's total vision on that shrine from the Dire side, but they still can't compete because Moon's just so strong and so easily able to find kills.
MS says he's TPing out underneath the Observe Ward, but that means they just go for Resolution. He's still amplified up with a Corrosive Haze, so the vision's there. Even with a Spectral Dagger, wants to jump through the tree lines. Jit, he'll get in. Icarus dive forward. Resolution just can't go anywhere.
It's 5K at 11 minutes, dude. This is just clinical. But at the same time, like, if you play the draft this way, I think Mineski, like, you win this game 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Like,
hey, you were talking about it. So the panel was like, we were sitting here talking about the draft while the panel was breaking it through. And at the end of it all, we're like, okay, Mineski looks good. You gave the numbers an 80-20, but it still came down to execution. Can Mineski do it? Both these teams have been struggling to execute their plans in this tournament. Forward are actually the ones having the better results so far in the tournament, just based off pure number with the 1 extra victory. But Mineski's execution of this draft has been flawless so far, and it doesn't seem like Ford have any way to really dissuade them.
No, they don't have that early game team fight. They are all in on the idea that their supports are going to hit 6 early, and yeah, you're there now, but you're losing your lanes. Mineski's heroes all scale with survivability as they increase in level and farm, and it's not as if they ever have damage issues, considering they have a Slardar, they have a Chen, the PA crits, the Phoenix is like your well, technically it's a 4-position Phoenix, but he's level 6 now. Like, how do you actually fight into this egg? It's one of the best low-key counters to Coddle, because yeah, you could drop the Ignis Fatus, but if there's an egg in range, it's sort of an equalizer.
Yeah.
The egg does damage.
It's like
the Wisp does not.
Maybe you just Brew Split to create space to fall back. That's the only upside way I can look at the forward lineup working, but that still requires the Brew to hit 6. He's so scared he can't come out to the lane, and rightly so.
Yeah. It's a really well-executed game thus far by Mineski, but they also have some of the more... I mean, I again can't believe they got Chen. Piladai knows how to play Chen. He's just been camping this top lane. He secures bottom, PA free farms. Now he's just been playing top, and he's always able to summon heroes up there if needed.
KP. He's starting his run. Universe up to the sky. Spectral Haunt. They really want KP. He'll get himself a double stuck. Just amplify as much as he can. So 4 heroes on bottom lane.
Look top.
Yep, up on top. SVG. He's the one who's trying to push back Mineski. But Paradise been holding onto this catapult for a very long time. He claims the tower with it. And Moon is pushing in the mid lane. In fact, that's where they're moving over. Yawar, I think he wants to set up with the imprisonment over on Moon, but it won't happen.
Yawar went drums, man. He is not feeling confident. And this is just, when we see OD win games, right? You think about Abed. He's getting Midas. He's going Kaya Yasha sometimes. Like, these are items that allow you to scale. Drums, Force Staff? Like, when do you actually win the game?
They're jumping in right on top of the Brewmaster. Femi going to go onto the egg. The Nova will drop, so Chen gets down low, and they're going to break through the Supernova. The follow-up wasn't tight enough, and MSS creates a space with a Will-O-Wisp. Jit jumped in the middle of this fight. He's got 19 one-charges, so a lot more life to get back in, and Moon's there too. Chen, he's already buying back to get involved in this fight. Give that regeneration or something into the engagement, as the Brewmaster split will wear off. X marks spot over on Yawar. Mineski, they want a rebuttal, and they'll answer pretty strong, even though the Coddle Blast does connect. SVG runs in, but that just means it's an X marks a spot. Easy target with the Corrosive Haze. They've got all the amplification they require, and it started to look good for forward killing off the Supernova, but it turned real bad.
I love the combination of Kunkka Slardar, but like, Kunkka just so powerful in this patch because not only do you provide this massive team fight, but you have one of the lowest cooldown catch spells in Dota, and now you just have a Slardar waiting in the wings to apply amplification and land another stun. So your single target pickoff into execution is insane, but then your team fight also doesn't suffer. You've got the Chen heal, the Phoenix ult, and of course the Kunkka boat. So there's no real downside to this Mineski lineup until forwards Spectre OD are actually online. And again, I question, looking at the way that the itemizations have come out, yeah, now Yawar is going to go back for a Midas, because if he went Force, like, you lose. Like, you just lose, because the enemy side will eventually outscale you, and you can't touch them through BKBs as is. And you look, Midas on the Slardar, Battle Fury on PA. Compare that. Wait, is that a Midas on Rezo? No boots Midas on the Spectre. All right, I mean, alrighty.
And they really need some money then.
It's better than, you know, I guess maybe like Phase Earn or something. I can't think of what the new Spectre build would be. Perhaps just Phase Drums
It's like I don't think he has enough life to even make a blade mail work against Mineski.
Oh, definitely not. It just, you think about the timing window for forward and how late in this game it's going to be. Mineski, again, Pylai die. He's one of the better captains in Dota, also been under the radar for some time. Good friend. And when you're playing these heroes like Chen, it's just so much easier to rule the game. So he's taking the towers he needed to aggressively. Now he wards up the Dire jungle. Their next play is Roche, and I think they might just go for it right now because Febi's going to die under tower.
Yeah. Unless I don't feel confident enough, Febi. Icarus dive out into the tree lines. He has a TP scroll available, decided not to use it. Just sits in the trees and dies.
I'd like to see you go for Roche now, Mineski. You know you've got the space, and especially with the creep from Chen in combination with KP Slardar, you just do too much damage. And yeah, you see it pinged out right now.
It is one of those times, though, when I think it's the rare moment where PA doesn't have a Vlads on his team 16 minutes in for a team that's so far ahead.
You don't need one.
You just Frost Armor him up and send him in, sure.
Yeah. This is what I mean. It's so simple to do Roche, and the benefit, there's two things that make doing Roche very easy. One is to be able to do it quickly, the other is to be able to do it without taking damage. If you can do both, it means that forward never really have a window where invading the pit benefits them. Like, you can't wait till it gets low and expect Mineski to be buttered up for you. And if you run into the pit now, I think you just lose because all the team fight from Mineski is prepared. And look, X on the Spectre, so simple.
He's starting over on Resolution. There's a large force coming in from Forward Gaming, but the Aegis Immortals already in the hands of Mineski, and now they want to fight. KP, he's sprinting himself forward. They do find the Keeper of the Light. Icarus dive forward. It's a perfect Fire Spirit, but the Will-O-Wisp is in Mineski's backline. They're trying to get rid of it so they can keep this fight going, and they will be able to do so. The Supernova, it doesn't explode once again, but it won't matter when Ashit can just go ham, looking for his next target, turns around to clean up the OD, and that's the last Brewling of the Brewmaster. They just don't stand a chance against that Phantom Assassin.
And we saw the stat earlier, but remember, Mineski needs to 2-0 in order to advance and not be eliminated right here in group stage. We can only assume that they're going to be able to close this one out based on the way this game's been going, which means our next match... Woo! Told you it was a baller. They win. Game 2's got everything.
He doesn't
Winning
even
team
see.
advances.
He doesn't see anything. It's like, all right, cool, got it.
Are you sure he wasn't Slaughter all too?
Oh, you actually, yeah, sorry, it's Slaughter all. I'm looking for the Observer Awards. No, you're right.
I don't know if I'm right. I'm just questioning. I could be wrong.
I'm fairly certain he was Slaughter altered. Either that, he just totally blindly did that, and that was just unbelievably good. But
yeah,
no.
It just we've seen this game so many times on this patch where a team wins 3 lanes. That's already enough to cement a huge advantage. But when they've got the ability to itemize, to accelerate their net worth, while also increasing their survivability.
All right, Luke, we'll get to see it again. No,
he didn't.
He actually didn't.
All right.
He didn't. Should never
Spidey senses.
Just maybe he was just looking to farm and got some extra cash. This one comes on legs.
Hey, Yuar's finished his Midas. So Resolution, yeah, this is just...
I like the way you announce that. It's like, hey guys, here's something positive.
Yeah, I again point to the role distribution. I just don't feel like when I've got a team with Rezo and with Universe that Universe should be the one looking to make all of the plays.
Ashit's just going in. He's after MSS. Blind Light will push him back. But KP, he actually didn't start with a crush. You had both Universe and MSS dead to rights, but he's still in range for Ashit just to jump forward with a Phantom Strike, letting KP finish the job on MSS. And they are definitely hunting. And Yoa, he's close. Kunkka. Oh, the Blink Crush into the trees. Universe once again has to use Dark Ascension, and they're going to use X-Mux Pop Boat. It won't work thanks to the defensive disruption from Yoa.
Yeah, well played. But this is, again, you cleared out all the towers, top and mid. You're Radiant, you have Roshan. Now you rotate towards the dead lane. You take out the 2 towers remaining. It's just, there's a formula to winning games on Radiant that is understood by pretty much every team at this tournament. And Mineski, they're in the driver's seat. They know what they got to do. Just be cautious. Don't throw. Don't go high ground too early because you've got 3 cores all scaling exponentially.
Runes are going to get very aggressive around the 20-minute bounty. Rune already got the crush off, but Universe, he'll back up. Currently has that corrosive haze. X marks the spot. Torrent dragging back MSS into death. I really don't even see a line like where SVG is like on well, rogue side of the world.
Oh, no.
Resolution into the trees and run away.
Yeah.
double kill now for Rajit. I don't think the stats that just popped up then, like forward, that's giving him some good numbers.
What was the win probability?
I think it was like 1 to 2 or something, like 1.2 or yeah.
What?
Yeah, it was 1.2 for Mineski and like 2.5 I think for forward. Either way, it was
this
like if forward, it should be close to like 1 and 8.
Yeah, it just you look at the items picked up. You know, yeah, Mineski's winning, but they're not gonna win any less as the game progresses. They have 2 Midases and a Battle Fury.
Yep. I actually just heard in my ear that it just shot up again, so it's now 1 to 10 or something like that, and rightly so. Mineski are just they're in.
Pushing.
They're taking the tier 3 towers at the moment. You was looking at this, and there's nothing he can do to stop this.
Man, I didn't realize how crazy that Chen buff is. 48 attack damage, which is then doubled on non-hero units. And this buffed catapult has just been wrecking structures this entire game. That's tower, and like, look, Brew isn't even here. SVG realizes, like, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do, guys. They're hitting the racks. Look at Moon's positioning. He's got a BKB. He's indestructible, and if you walk into range of him, he X's you into a stun.
Yep, just like this. X marks a spot onto the Brewmaster. He won't be, he can get his split off, but he's already at like 2/3 of his life.
They're just gonna spam daggers.
Yeah.
And if he catches a crit, I think Brew,
he
has to split here.
Split down. There's no other choice. They'll just jump forward and kill him off. And now dead for 30 seconds.
Like, Mineski, like, they have the team fight, but they also have this crazy ability to poke aggressively, as we've just witnessed. And forward don't have a blink dagger. The only way that they can start fights is if Mineski commits hard, and they're then able to combo break, counter initiate, hit some massive team fight combo, but they don't have any of these cheap abilities like the Kunkka X that they can just throw out to
yeah,
I don't know what you do.
I'm loving this decision from Mineski. They actually started the TP out on the Chen to head towards the top lane to get a little bit of a split push going, but they wanted to pressure in mid lane instead. The bottom lane, like,
oh, that's so cool. He went back to base to get the PA's BKB and then delivered it to him.
Oh, that's
They didn't want to keep going before this item was delivered, and this saves that, because the courier was already here, so the only way to get that item was to do so, and of course, Ajay, no TP. Played too long with Eternal Envy.
They're having, wow. Who still plays with him? Like, what team is he in? Phantom Assassin had to grab the creep wave on bottom lane and push it through. That was the only thing. The backdoor regeneration was stopping them from getting more aggressive.
Yeah, what do you do? It's daytime now. There's no nighttime for 50 seconds when the darkness comes off cooldown. How do you actually engage a fight here? They're just losing another racks. Like, there's no ages. This is just Mineski killing your buildings in front of your face. If you're going to accept the defeat, don't we just GG?
That's kind of what should happen, but it's what's not happening, so there must be something in forward's mind that gives them hope. Oh, that cleave damage! SVG is so low! How many times was he sit there going, I don't think I can split? And now the Supernova is down. Yuwal will get the hammer off, but he's still already dead. He'll buy back quickly. They're TPing out. They want to try and find this kill. KP is the target. Resolution jumping forward. All they want to do is now kill off the Slaughter, who's moving so fast that Resolution can't keep up with him. The Radiance Burn should do the work, and Universe TPing out to the shrine. They will be able to kill off the Slaughter, but at what cost? You've still got the battle. Now it's a double kill for Rajit. The Brewlings, he only barely stays alive long enough to go back into his normal Brewmaster form, but no, that doesn't help him even when that does happen. SVG can't go anywhere. The X marks a spot. Torrent, an ultra kill for Rajit. This is the game. This is totally the game. There is no hope for forward, and MSS will finally tab out. Yeah. I haven't seen someone this bloody since Apollo Creed.
Yeah, and after watching the way this game is played, I said that this draft was 80-20. It, in retrospect, feels more like 95-5 because you have an advantage in the lanes. You can take objectives easier. You can take Roche easier. You have an easier time finding pickoffs. Forward is banking on Mineski making some YOLO moves that put them in terrible positions to get four-man clapped, split. Rezo comes in, but it just feels like the forward draft is handicapped.
Yep.
I don't know how to play that any better.
But there could have been some better timings, like Resolution having to use his Spectral Horn as the first defensive thing. When Night Stalker rotates towards the top lane, Universe, he wanted to get in, he wanted to try and fight, but it came a minute too late. And that's when you look at Mineski, the execution, like, okay, this is perfect, because everything that could go wrong for forward's draft seemed to go wrong.
Yeah.
Like, anything they had to play with just disappeared.
But what did they have to play with?
Uh,
Like, not in this meta,
Yeah.
right? You want the 5 positions that are owning are like the lane secures that provide a ton of utility or team fighter mobility. Undying, Bane, Chen. This is what the top teams are picking.
yeah.
And then their cores have the ability to shove waves and accelerate. Forward flips that. The only heroes that have abilities that push creep waves are the Coddle, the Brew, and to an extent, of course, Odie's Astral. But how does a Spectre and a Night Stalker farm? They just have to smack creeps all game.
Yeah.
You need some wave clear. Get some.
Oh,
let the supports run in circles.
You mean as a melee hero, I have to walk in range of a Slaughter pickup? I don't think this is gonna work. And obviously it didn't. Forward needs something else. They need something which actually lets them be in the game for game 2. But either way, we have a real series. The winner of this next game gets to actually stay in ESL One. That's what we wanted.
Yes, indeed. It is exactly what we, the neutrals, wanted. I'm totally sure that's what Forward wanted. But nevertheless, a dominant performance by Mineski in game number 1. Let's find out from Nahaz and Capitalist what they made of the first game of this series. It's all a best of 1 now to decide whether they go into the main bracket. It's horrible in many ways for both, but great for us as the neutrals.
Oh, the good news is that we get a meaningful second game as Mineski needed to 2-0 this series to stay alive in the tournament. The bad news is I really whiffed on that draft. Here's the problem. When you look at Dota, you have to think about contingencies because you never know exactly how the game state's going to go. And the biggest problem with this lineup, first of all, picking Spectre into Chen is a lot more problematic than I realized, where you're not going to be able to feed Spectre those early haunt kills because Chen's always going to be able to have 4 heroes there to respond. And the other thing is, you look at this lineup and you realize that when you stack that on top of the idea that Night Stalker needs to do stuff still in that first nighttime, when you are behind with this lineup at 10 minutes, it's like being punched in the gut, man. What are you going to do from 10 to 15 minutes that's going to get you back into that game? And the answer is really nothing.
Old Night Stalker. That's what's supposed to come in. I mean, I've never really felt like Night Stalker, despite any kind of bust he's been getting, still doesn't feel great as an offlane hero. And I don't know, he was just supposed to like be able to bridge the gap between like 2 pretty greedy cores that don't have any ways to be able to lane shove themselves and be able to create that space on the map. And I don't know, it's just weird. Universe is placed in a really awkward position to be able to do everything,
or
basically, in that game, and you only have 50% of the game to be able to do that. Only during nighttime you can do that. And you picked it in, like, you picked Night Stalker with Coddle, was whatever, but you picked Night Stalker into Phoenix, which I think is kind of a problem.
I agree.
Like, the one teamfight aspect of you being able to have this nighttime and attack quickly and get on top of people, and then it turns day, it's...
I mean, it's funny because I'm not like Kyle, right? I think Kyle's analysis is good, but he's very pendulum-y. He's very like, when one team won the game, it's like 95-5 draft. I don't look at Dota that way. I think it's important that you look at Forward's draft. They had a plan for the game, and the question is kind of like how we've been talking about OG, is that once you get knocked off of that primary plan from the game, can you do stuff? And this Forward draft was such that once they got knocked off of how they had planned to play the game, they had no ability to recover.
I think the scoreboard kind of reveals that as well. Arjit, shout out to him. PA 11, 0, and 5 for the main man.
Wow.
Mineski with a fantastic performance from him. Also, Moon on the Conquer as well, 5-0.
Yeah, he was a stud.
A fantastic performance from him. I think he's... we talked about underrated players yesterday. He might be one of those underrated players.
I'm like fist pumping right now. I know they can't see it on screen. I'm so down with what you just said. And here's, I think that's an important question even farther than the context of him as an individual player, because along with that support duo where in a lot of games it feels like they have 2 5s, okay? Yep. The other question I have about this Mineski team is there the star power that we saw last year for Ice Ice Ice? Is there the one player that you want to play around? And Moon, as good as he has been in spots throughout his career, he's not necessarily consistently been the guy that you look at and go, I want a game plan around him. This is one of those games, though, where you look at him going, if he plays that way on a sustained basis, I'm perfectly comfortable making him my centerpiece.
Is the trouble, though, Cap, that he is literally the only one in the team right now?
I think that was the discussion that we talked about at the very start of the tournament. Was like when we talked about Mineski, it was
too much on him, isn't it?
Like Moon has to do everything. Well, unfortunately in this game, like they put themselves in a good position where KP is able to have like just a very strong laning phase. Like he's matched up against the Spectre. That was really smart of them. Like there was a lot of, I honestly think there was so many different offlaners you could run in that situation where you don't have a support that guarantees the lane and you're matched up against a weak laning phase core, that there's tons of heroes that take advantage of that. It's a free offlaners game, but KP plays it very well. He pressures the Spectre well, and then the supports have a good game. Like none of that was on Moon, right? There wasn't that big pressure that we saw earlier in the group stage where other games it was like, God, he has to do everything. He has to create the space and turn into the carry.
Is there an element of Forward getting caught out a little bit here? Because I know AUI does spend time looking at the other teams and figuring out what they would like to pick and what they're going to be. The 4 out of the 5 heroes is not what we've seen from Mineski at this tournament. It's not what we've seen from them in the last month even. So they've decided to go a different way somehow today.
I think if there's one thing that you point to, I think that if I'm AUI in that spot and I see a first pick Chen out of Mineski when they hadn't run Chen in official in 11 months and I haven't necessarily scrimmed against them, that's the one thing where I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
Maybe
what
you
have they
wonder a little
decided
bit.
to do?
I tell you what though, one thing I find about Dota is that usually when you make mistakes about analyzing a draft, they're actually pretty simple. And the one thing about this draft is we learned from VP all of last year that if you can pressure the enemy safe lane and they can't pressure yours, you're usually going to win. And that's a big part, I think, of what happened in this game. It goes back to Cap's point about Spectre being very pressurable and Night Stalker not being a hero that can consistently bring that pressure.
Yeah, you literally do nothing every single time it's day.
Yep.
All right, gents, thank you very much. Time for us to head to a break right now here in Katowice, but don't go too far away. We're only halfway through our first series of the day, and we've got 2 of these best of 2s to come and a best of 3 from the knockout bracket a little later on. So plenty still to come. It's all tied up in our first series of the day, and both teams now have to win the second game to advance. We'll see you shortly.